Here's what some people are saying about the Projection Booth podcast.
The Projection Booth is single-handedly the greatest film podcast you could ever listen to or could possibly want.
Top notch. 5 stars. This has quickly become one of my favorite film-related podcasts. Always interesting.
A completely unpretentious yet fully comprehensive look at films from all genres.
The Projection Booth podcast, with new episodes available every week at projectionboothpodcast.com.
You guys look like... What do they look like, Jimmy?
Dorks. They look like a couple of dorks.
Get those birds! Nerds! Nerds!
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
What? Are you kidding? We got some family here. Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
You are listening to the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast. Here are Brad, Lisa, Brian, and Darren.
Welcome to another edition of the It Modcast podcast. Joining us is Brian Young, the Turtle Dork, a.k.a. the Ranger Dork.
So, are we more like Iron Man or Spider-Man?
And also joining us is Lisa Gullickson, wife Dork.
Different colors, different kids, different color kids.
And Brad Gullickson, mouth Dork.
Single udder? No, that's a penis. Is that a quote from the film? He masturbates that bull right before the title.
Yes, that does happen.
He ejaculates that bull.
And also joining us is special guest Dork, Matt Herms.
More phenomenal.
And I'm your host, Darren Smith, the Disco Dork, and welcome to the It Modcast podcast, reviewcast for Saban's Power Rangers.
Yeah.
I did that right, B? I said Saban's name?
Yeah, that's cool. That's
all
cool.
Right.
Yeah, just a small little film. I'm not that excited about
it. Word.
That's what lies sound like.
You mean we're not talking about Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie?
Isn't that the same thing? Didn't Saban own that?
Yeah, I thought we were talking about, 95.
Everybody just clicked off of this podcast. I watched the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers as a means to pre-game Saban's Power Rangers. And let me tell you, that is some hot garbage.
I wish I could have warned you beforehand.
I mean, I knew what I was getting into.
Okay.
But I did want to just get the vibe of the original show, having not really grown up on it. I didn't want to just jump right into this, Elizabeth Banks, Rita Repulsa character, and not understand the origins of her monstrosity.
She's so drippy.
She is, which was just shocking to me. I guess maybe because she came out of they resurrected her coming out of the water, but
yeah, I
thought
mean,
she would have kind of soaked out her suit by that time.
Sploosh.
You just can't have nondescript dripping from a woman. You just can't. It's disgusting.
Well, she had a lot of hair, and
that was not coming out of her hair.
Oh,
that was like a shag carpet from the 70s.
Ooh.
All right, so if anyone has been listening to the podcast recently or at all, you would know that Brian is not only is he our Turtle Dork, but he's the resident Ranger Dork. He's a huge fan of the Power Rangers.
Yes.
He has been talking about this film leading up to its release multiple times on several episodes.
He pretty much had an entirely Power Rangers themed Comic-Con.
Yeah.
Pretty much. You're right. Yeah.
Where you met the whole cast, right?
Yeah, this was after they finished. I've been following this film from the conception of it. From the time that they announced that Lionsgate was going into production for the film, all the way up to the casting, to production, to the marketing, to everything that they've been doing. I've been following this film from the very beginning.
Basically, a tremendously dangerous amount of anticipation going on there.
Very much so.
I was fearing for you, sir.
Yeah, I wanted to take the advice of my fellow dorks. Unfortunately, I didn't. But to that effect, I still had a great experience of watching the film. So
I can attest to that. I sat next to Brian, who's losing his shit. But let's not be rude. We have a guest, Matt Herms, and Matt Herms' claim to fame is he is a colorist for Sonic the Hedgehog. He's done work with that. You said Mega Man, the Mega Man comics.
Yep, Mega Man.
And also the Power Rangers.
I'm the current colorist for the monthly ongoing adventures of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers at Boom Studios.
And his work is absolutely stunning. I mean, vibrant, like luminous. It's awesome.
Thank you very much.
Very great work. I was looking through it today, and just it definitely harkens back to a lot of the elements of the original show.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, and I love all the colors and the way they pop. It's great.
You did not know you were going to step into the Itmod Stroke cast.
Well deserved.
I like to hear it. So
it's your bull moment.
All right, Brian. So this is your thing, man. This is your bag. Take it away.
Man, okay.
And it's also Matt Herms' bag, right? He's a big-time Power Rangers nut and
absolutely.
fanatic.
Absolutely. So I watched Power Rangers. I was the perfect age range for Power Rangers. I was around 8 years old when the show began. So I hung with it from the beginning, probably for the first couple of years. My mom was a school teacher, so I actually would not be able to see it after school when it aired. And my grandpa actually recorded the episodes on VHS.
It was like a family affair.
Yeah, he'd record the episodes on VHS and send them to me. And I would basically do the 90s kid equivalent of binge watching.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fast-forwarding through commercials. Zip, zip. Nope, too far. Zip, zip.
Oh, wait, no, go back. That's a toy that I might want.
I think the key there is appropriate age for Power Rangers, unlike other man-children sitting at this table.
Well, the way I really got into it, when Power Rangers hit in 93, I was 15. So you could say it was slightly past my demographic.
And by you mean yes, definitely.
Yeah. But, I mean, and I put a video up on YouTube just kind of, professing my love and how I kind of got into Power Rangers. And I expressed, like, this was past my time when it hit. I think it was really targeted more towards people around, like, maybe 6 to 11.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But I was 15 years old, and I was coming out of my my love of TMNT. This was around 93. That's when the third movie came out. When the third Ninja Turtles movie came out, it started to kind of, lose me a little bit. But then I saw Power Rangers, and I was attracted to the fighting, the martial arts. I was a big martial arts fan. And just that whole idea of like a team and then seeing like the Megazords. I was like, oh, this looks kind of cool. So I decided to check it out. And from the beginning, I was just kind of hooked to it.
What was it for you, Matt, that was so appealing about these different colored teens with multicolored powers?
So for me, I was the first time I ever saw Power Rangers, I was looking for something else on TV. Interestingly enough, it was Sonic the Hedgehog on Saturday morning.
Yeah.
That was not on, so I flipped to Power Rangers, and I immediately was just kind of taken to it. Honestly, I think it was more of the Japanese footage side of it.
Yeah.
Because it looks very different. Like, it just looks so different from anything else on TV in that time. That you're just immediately drawn to it. Like, just the flashy costumes, the monster effects, like, to anyone that's ever watched a Godzilla movie from back in the day, like, it's super not that, like, it's not a surprise to anyone that's familiar with that stuff. But to a kid that had never seen Godzilla or anything, like, it's like, hey, these are, like, these are guys in rubber costumes stomping around a giant, like foam cardboard city or something.
Poor
like
Angel Grove.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I never watched Power Rangers, so I'm curious, like, how much of the teen drama aspect was part of the show, or was it just, like, mostly just fightage?
Well, Zordon wanted teens with attitude, and he got probably the most, like,
upstanding,
super upstanding, like, no, we're really active in the community, we're really super just nice kids imaginable.
Basically, they're the kids from the epilogues of every G.I. Joe episode, knowing is half the battle.
Yeah.
You take those white bread children
with all their knowledge,
you put them in Angel Grove, give them Zordon and Alpha 5, you got Power Rangers.
I always imagined it was just like Ghost Rider, but with punching.
Yeah, it's Ghost Rider, WRITER, right?
I was going to say, I love that Lisa imagined Ghost Rider, Johnny Blaze.
No, not Ghost Rider, Ghost Writer.
Yes.
the show that I was allowed to watch. Because it was on PBS.
Yeah.
Okay. But to the film, man, this is like the first time I'm actually kind of leading, so it's a little nervous.
Look at your face.
I know, I'm so excited.
We generally don't allow Brian to talk.
Yeah, I know.
Not allowed happiness in here.
But yeah, so I guess we have to start really just with the opening of the film, and the movie opens.
Bryan Cranston.
Yeah, the movie opens up 65 million years ago, during the prehistoric ages, and
Protozoa.
So, it wasn't protozoa.
No, crow.
I'm not a scientist, Lisa. Why did you just let Brian say it with the generic way?
The layman's term.
Primordial times.
A long time ago.
A very long time ago. And we see Zordon and his original team, and they have been defeated. And we see that Rita was the original Green Ranger. And also, precursor, this is going to be a spoiler review. So anybody listening, if you haven't seen the film, please go see the film. Come back and listen to this. If you've seen it, definitely indulge us. But so then we see that the Green Ranger, Rita, has betrayed the team. And really this comes down to the whole thing about the Zeo crystal. So Rita tells Zordon that, we could have ruled the world. It's like with the whole idea of the Zeo crystal being the source of life. And so basically his team gets eradicated. And I thought that was just a great opening to really kind of build on this mythology that we have for the Power Rangers.
I would say, for me, the most interesting thing about that opening is the Rangers are in the midst of an attack. The Red Ranger, Zordon, is ultimately the last good Ranger standing, to not include Rita. But prior to him being the last good Ranger standing, the Yellow Ranger, if I'm remembering correctly, was still alive and gave him her power coin, or its power coin. And when the power coin is removed and the suit comes off, it's not a human being in that Yellow Ranger suit.
No.
Of course not, because they had not evolved yet.
Well, to me,
human life did not exist at that time.
Right. It was surprising, though, that suddenly we were having a Power Rangers film with a Green Lantern Corps opening.
Well,
is that unusual?
But that is, I don't know if you picked up on it, and that I had to kind of do some research, but seeing that goes to our first Easter egg, which is basically in the series, at the end of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, there's another team from what they call the planet of Aquitar, who are the Alien Rangers. And I think this was a nod to the Alien Rangers from the TV show.
She was an Aquatarian?
I think so.
It could have been. To be fair, in the TV show, it was very, very different looking. It was basically just, really cheap Star Trek makeup.
Yeah.
Where they were just like, it's a human actor, and we're just going to kind of slide this mask on and put on some eyeshadow, and we're going to call it done.
Give some
they kind of have the Alien Nation heads, and that, yeah.
Well, I really, really enjoyed the opening scene, and I loved seeing Bryan Cranston in full Red Ranger gear, and it made me sad when I knew we weren't going to get any of that story. Yeah. I'm immediately demanding a Bryan Cranston prequel to this film, frankly.
That'd be cool.
It was surprising, though, that Rita, there were allusions to her possibly being connected to the Green Ranger as the film was gearing up to its release, but to suddenly have Rita as a Green Ranger within the first 2 minutes of the movie, I was shocked.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
How did you two superfans feel about that?
I was super excited. Rita in the show, she creates the Green Ranger powers and all that. She is never herself a member of the team, and I thought that was a great way to kind of make her a little bit more connected to the Power Rangers and their history.
Yeah.
And to kind of create a rivalry there. I was surprised to see her in the full costume. I know, in all the speculation beforehand, there was all this, people getting really intense into it, being all right, if you analyze the textures in this trailer of her costume, you can see all the, that it matches up with the Power Ranger costumes and whatnot, so I remember seeing all that speculation and all, and I was like, yeah, they'll probably do that. That sounds good. So
yeah, with all the fan theories, especially when you saw Rita in those publicity stills with her costume wearing green, and then just the reports that she was the original Green Ranger, and that she was formerly a Power Ranger that turned on Zordon and his team. But I like the fact that they did kind of recontextualize the backstory, because now, like you say, because of the conflict between, it gives them a more a better reason for Rita and Zordon to kind of have that conflict, because now it brings it to a personal level. Having this former Ranger who betrayed your team, it really just gives it just that much more of an impact for their backstory, and instead of just making her some evil witch that lives on the moon.
Mm-hmm. And then you jump 65 million years to present day Angel Grove.
Yeah, so then we get to meet the main cast. And so we start with Jason. Jason, who looks like he's playing a prank on one of the rival football teams by trying to put a cow into a bull into their locker room.
It has a penis.
That was made exceptionally clear.
Yeah. So, we get our first joke, which is debatable if that joke lands or not. But
debatable.
It shot me in the face.
Hey, in that first screening, a lot of people laughed at that. Even my second screening, people laughed at that. But
just because people laugh does not mean it's funny.
You're right. That's true. That's very true. So then we get like this little.
And I think that's a weird way to introduce your film. To start with a penis joke like right off the bat. This is what
like
our characters are going to do.
Cow penis joke.
Yeah. Yeah, and, if they're in this small town that's like a rural town...
That dude knows what a cock is.
He doesn't, he knows what a cow versus a bull looks like. Even if he's not a farmer, he's going to know.
Yeah.
He knew enough that, this cow's going to be angsty if it's not milked. And I'll just jerk whatever's down here. It does not make any sense.
He could have been a new student. Maybe he was new to the town.
New to the town, he goes... I want to do a good deed today, and all I have here is this cow. Like, I don't get it.
Had to use two hands.
Yeah, that's right.
No. Had to use two hands. So we get a pretty interesting little car chase scene with the police with Jason, like this nice little one shot kind of wrap around inside the vehicle, which I thought was pretty impressive. And I have to say, Dean Israelite did a really good job of directing this film. I think just the color palette that he uses, a lot of the shot selections, the way he directs his actors, he does some very interesting things with the camera that I really, really like seeing in the film. So Jason crashes the vehicle, and now he is wearing an ankle bracelet that he has to now has a curfew, but he has to be in by
curfew
7, and he's in detention Saturday detention. I think it's Saturday detention, and so this is where we get to meet a couple of our other characters from the original show.
Can we just address before we get to that the moment with him and his dad in the car?
Yeah.
So they have the little chapter heading like 3 weeks later.
Yeah.
And then he's in the car with his dad, and his dad gives the entire exposition of everything that happened up to that point. Like, if it's 3 weeks later after an incident, would you turn to your son 3 weeks later and go, I can't believe you did that 3 weeks ago. You threw away your future. I'm sure in the past 3 weeks they've had this conversation.
Yeah, but this is the moment where he's now taking him to
this
detention.
is the first time he's going to detention.
There are multiple places where in this beginning part, they're just way heavy-handed with the exposition within the context of the dialogue.
You have to understand, Lisa, he's the bad boy.
It was made very clear that I think there were a lot of really sweet moments of exposition, like when he's walking through the hallway and he looks up and he sees his display case with all of his stuff in there. Mm-hmm. We see his knee brace. We see that he's going to a detention. I think that his moment of exposition was talking down to the audience. Like we could have, the direction was so good and the acting was so good that we did not need the dad to make that speech for our, because it did not feel like for Jason's benefit. It felt like for our benefit as the audience of this film.
Well, I agree. I think that's one of my biggest problems is probably you have to have exposition in a film like this, but at the same time, I think more so it's really trying to establish the relationship between him and his father as well. But
there are other places where that's handled just way better.
It's heavy-handed.
It's heavy-handed.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I found throughout the movie, in a couple of instances, and I'm sure we'll get to them later, but was trying to kind of like look at one of those instances like that, where it's like that exposition seems a little heavy there, like just for us, and trying to figure out like kind of a logical way that makes sense. And I was like, well, he's a fisherman, and sometimes like they can be out for like a couple weeks at a time. So maybe this is the first time he's seen him.
I think that there's just a couple script things that
I know. I think certainly sets up the film as a wannabe Breakfast Club.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with Spider-Man Homecoming coming out in the not so distant future, that's a film that's obviously in love with John Hughes, but seems to be taking the John Hughes vibe and adapting it into a modern context. Whereas Power Rangers, this film seems very much like it could have just been dropped from that decade, like including that very heavy-handed exposition sequence. You know, it felt appropriate for the type of movie that it is. It didn't bother me, is what I'm saying. All right, it was silly fun, Lisa.
So then we get to Billy and Kimberly, who we meet also in detention as well. And first, I think it's Billy that we meet, who I thought really kind of stole the film.
Oh,
I think R.J. Kyler is the heart and soul of this film, and he's really the centerpiece that ties the group together. And we see that later in the film as well. So we get introduced to him. He's being bullied by Kowalski or somebody. Which,
some kind of generic bully name.
Should have been Bulk or Skull.
He was being bullied by not Bulk or Skull.
I know. They should have had at least one of them, but, you know. All right,
Maybe one of their last names was Kowalski. Kowalski is the last name. Bulk or Skull sounds like a first name.
What were their names? It was Skulovich and Bulkmeyer, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
So they weren't even close.
And then we see Jason kind of stand up for Billy when the bully comes to Billy and is breaking. You see, we know that Billy, he's on what they call on the spectrum with autism. So you see him like with his pencils and keeping them in a particular order. So he comes and pushes them down and breaks his pencils, and then Jason comes over and bitch slaps him. which is pretty cool. I like that. That was a nice little moment. And then Kimberly, we get to see Kimberly and her whole deal, which I'll get into a little bit later. Didn't really connect for me as far as like her whole backstory, but the whole thing with her friends and the cheerleading squad and them literally cutting her out.
I love that moment. Like what a teen moment.
Yeah.
Like so over dramatic. I thought it was so
vicious
funny.
with those scissors.
With the scissors.
And those scissors were pink too.
Yeah, well, they're cheerleader scissors.
Yeah.
And then she takes those scissors and gives herself a really tasteful haircut.
Yeah. It's amazing how good she was to cut her hair perfectly with those scissors.
2 clips, and everybody's mind is blown. They're like, wow. They could have gone a little, deeper. There were some ladies in there with some more revolutionary haircuts than her. but it looked great. This is her new future. Is haircuts.
Yeah. So basically, we started to see the team assemble. Really, the connection between Jason and Billy. Jason wants to get the ankle bracelet off, and of course, Billy, because he's the smartest one and the tech savvy one, he's able to kind of remove his bracelet. And
a fact that never comes up again. I found that.
Oh.
It never comes up again that his bracelet is missing.
Oh.
Like, his dad never is like, how's that bracelet thing going? His siblings never ask, like, shouldn't you be home by 7? Like, he doesn't live alone. Like, how did that never come up again?
Yeah. So then Billy gives some of his backstory as far as like the relationship with his father, and his father worked at the quarry in the mines and stuff like that, and he used to go up there a lot before he passed away. And so then we go to the quarry, which is where kind of like the inciting incident where we all the 5 Rangers kind of meet up and where they kind of get their coins. And I really liked how all of them kind of met up. To me, it felt natural for like how they met Kimberly up there, because she goes up there by herself, and then we see Zach because he lives in the mobile home nearby, and then Trini, who's the outsider, going out there to kind of isolate herself. And so I kind of liked how, it wasn't like, oh, the 5 of them are like, let's go explore all this. It's like they all just kind of met up at this. Yeah, they kind of converged in this area.
And I thought they did a pretty good job of establishing them as teenagers with attitude in a better fashion than, what we saw in the original incarnation at Angel Grove. These felt like angsty teens.
Yeah. So I thought that worked really well as far as with them coming together and then getting the coins. Then we get to the crash when they're being chased after they get the coins out from the quarry. and that train hit.
What exactly is Billy doing? Why does he want to blow up the side of that mountain for his dad?
I think they were going up there. That's something I was also trying to figure out on my second watch. I was trying to listen.
I think the way I interpreted that is him and his dad would go dig around at the quarry, like that was their thing,
Yeah.
and that just happened to be an area that his dad was fascinated with, like that he felt kind of just drawn to that area.
And Billy in his teen years discovered explosives, and that was just an extension.
But that's like his thing. Like that's why he was in detention, because he plays with explosives. He's into science. He's into tinkering. To me, that sounds like very reasonable. Yeah. He's into digging around and finding things, and he was just drawn to this place. And you know, if you're going to blow up a big chunk of earth, a quarry is a great place to do it. I thought that was reasonable.
And they also established, too, with the whole idea of Goldar, that the quarry is like a gold mine as well. Because I remember hearing a piece of dialogue, could have been ADR, they could have added that in later. You know,
it was definitely ADR.
Right, make sure everything tied together. But I noticed on my second watch that they said that this was a gold mine area. So I was like, oh, okay, makes sense. You know, to try to tie in Goldar to make that make sense.
But I think that I think that if there's a spaceship underneath that Earth that has some kind of mystical powers with the stones wrapped in, there's going to be some heavy mojo there, and maybe some kind of underground geological something that sprouts from that. I think that all seems extremely reasonable. Like just like a piece of Earth that's just full of potential because of this alien presence.
Yeah. What'd you think about them meeting like all the different characters in that moment at the quarry?
So I liked it. I kind of wish we had seen a little bit more of Zach and Trini characters beforehand.
Yeah.
Because again, like they seemed the most underdeveloped of everyone there.
Why are they not in the detention? Like, isn't that the logical thing?
They're there at the end in detention.
Yeah. So why not introduce them all in true Breakfast Club fashion?
I think I kind of like the fact that they didn't, because like I was saying before, the fact of how they all just kind of met up at the quarry
they're all just drawn to this place.
Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like, to Matt's point, Trina and Zach get the short shrift because they just suddenly are drawn there rather than being properly introduced earlier.
I mean,
as a group.
I do think even though this is a story about a team, it really is the story about Jason and Billy. It's their movie. And whether that's right or wrong, that's really where the movie chose to focus.
So, I definitely agree. I mean, I think all the characters got their moments in the film, but the main narrative is Jason and Billy.
Yeah.
So they get hit by the car, and their powers, I guess, that ignites the coins, and they get their powers. Then we wake up.
Billy destroying Mom's car weirdly never comes up again. She's not mad. Nobody's grounded.
You know what I loved, though? When Billy's mom is introduced, how she immediately is starstruck that star athlete Jason Scott is at her son's
small town
bedroom.
It makes so sense. So small town.
Yeah, I loved that moment.
Yeah. I wish there was more of her.
So
she seemed
I
really
totally would have bought her, just been like, whatever gets my son in league with Jason Scott, if I have to lose a minivan in the process, no big deal. There's a deleted scene there, Lisa. I guarantee you that's how it plays out.
But I love how they wake up in the morning and then they have these superpowers. So like Kimberly's crushing her phone, and Jason is like destroying the sink, and then we see Billy at school, and the bully's coming back to him. He's trying to break his wrist, and he can't.
And they all immediately know what's going on. I love that. Like superheroes are like part of the culture, so they're like, "Oh, I got the superhero bug. This is great."
Billy makes reference to Iron Man and Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And I think really comes down to they're really more of X-Men, even though they're not born with it's like they're in their teen years. Their mutant gene is now awakened they're more of mutants.
Yeah, and I like that little moment too in the cafeteria with Billy, and he's got all his friends, and then Kimberly comes over. He's like, "Oh, he's friends with Kimberly? Like,
he's so cool.
he's hustling."
So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. So then they all go back to the quarry, and this is we start to see their powers develop. They meet back up with Zach and Trini, and you see Trini climb up the wall. Like, oh shit, like, okay, and then they start to jump, and then the big moment that we all see in the trailer when they have to jump the cliff to the other side, and we see Trini do it first, and it all comes down to Billy, and Billy is scared, and he makes it, but he foolishly stays on the end, and falls back, and but safely into the water. So then the other Rangers follow him down.
Well, can we stop at this moment?
Yeah.
This is, I found, an actually really disturbing sequence, because you have Billy who falls maybe to his death, but like you said, he's rescued. We don't know how he's rescued, or if he's just indestructible and he just landed on his feet like a cat, and it turns out it was water, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But then there comes this moment where each team jumps, accepts that they're going to be okay, and I found like this weird, uncomfortable tinge.
Yeah.
As each team was just like, I'm jumping. Because then I imagined at the bottom of that quarry, everyone's just splattered. I feel like they accept Billy's survival.
It was a little too trusting.
It was very trusting. And I don't know, like, because it is in a teen context, teen suicide being something that is always a concern. I found that like uncomfortable. I found it uncomfortable. There you go.
Yeah, no, they should have definitely, exerted more caution. But I do think the idea that you're a superhero and being in a culture that knows what a superhero is, I think that they were a little bit just kind of intoxicated with that idea.
Their confidence in their survival is what was ugly to me. I think one of them should have missed the pool.
Oh, Jesus. Brad's like,
no.
Cautionary tale.
No.
There should have been 6 Power Rangers.
Sorry, Black Ranger.
Gotta have Zach. Can't kill off the OGs. No. But yeah, so they all, and then I like that moment between Trini and Kimberly, because Trini is they're developing her as the outsider. So that ended exchange with them where she asked her for the water. She's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I have to do this," and she grabs her, and then they jump. I don't know. That was a weird. It goes back to that moment that you were saying, like, it's like you don't know what's down there, but yet you're gonna pull somebody else with you.
I didn't understand Trini's level of I understand, like, I'm a loner and I have loner shit to do, but at the same time, you're going through something that's extraordinary. You don't want to at least check it out. Like, you're just ready to run up a mountain and not be like, yeah, I agree, it's weird. I don't know. To me, I thought that she was overly cautious of getting to know these people. Like, you don't have to get to know someone to just be like, so can you jump really far and scrabble up a mountain? Me too. It's weird.
Yeah, I mean, they start to develop, I think, that connection. But I think on that first meeting, it didn't bother me. I thought it made sense for the way they were kind of developing her character. But yeah, so then that's when we start to get to when they're in the water and they go underneath and they discover the ship where Zordon and Alpha are. So, which is our new command center. What you think about the whole setup for the?
I like the visual effect of Zordon, like the way they did his face.
Like those things you stick your hand in at the Discovery store.
Yeah, I was like, okay, like I guess Zordon's from Krypton, from the DC.
Oh yeah.
Movie universe, because he's got the same toy like presentation there. But other than that, like I liked it. I missed a little bit more of a friendly looking Alpha. Like I did not care for Alpha's design.
His little pot belly. I thought he was cute. I have no preconception of what he should look like, but I thought he was looking like a little sweetie.
A lot of the stuff about the way they designed the costumes, Alpha, the Zords, and everything. Like A lot of that fell into a very common thing you see in movies nowadays, which is kind of like the Michael Bay style visual design. Like, it's like, we don't really want clean lines. We want just like kind of a cluster of detail.
Overly textualized.
Overly textured, overly detailed, you know, like it's one of those things where like once they're in motion, it's like I can't really tell what's going on, you know? So I don't care a ton for those elements, but the overall, like, oh, it's a ship and all that, you know, like, and Zordon in particular, I was like, okay, this is cool.
Alpha 5's a hard character to swallow. The whole movie, I'm waiting for him to be introduced, because you can't really, like, make a badass version of Alpha 5.
Yeah.
And they don't really attempt to with Bill Hader either. But he does stand out from the typical superhero visual style and origin supporting cast member.
I didn't know how I was necessarily going to feel about Alpha 5 because I saw the original design, but I thought it worked within the context of the film. His eyes, that whole idea, I think they could have just kind of went away from the design.
The two little froggy eyes on the Saturn rings.
When they came out, when you saw the first publicity stills and the toys, it just didn't seem to jive with me the right way. I like the classic look of Alpha 5. You could have just had like a regular like saucer head. And maybe had like a visor, almost kind of like kind of like Kit from Knight Rider or something like that. But I don't think you needed to necessarily have like eyes on him because you rarely even in the film got to see. They tried to make it look like they were blinking, but you even rarely saw that. So I don't know. It just really that design didn't.
So my question to you two super fans is that what this film is doing is trying to bring a very kiddie, goofy, out there property that was Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and bring it into the visual style of modern superhero movies, whether it's the MCU or the DCEU. And I just don't think when you have something like Alpha 5, you can do that character justice in the style of this film. It stands apart from everything else that this movie is doing. It feels awkward. Like I almost wish this film leaned into the goofier side and separated itself from our modern idea of superhero cinema.
Yeah, but see, I don't think they were going to go that route.
I mean, I agree. Obviously, they didn't.
Yeah.
But I think it does a disservice to the original conception as somebody who never really grew up on that stuff. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's my question to you. If you were given this property, would you have gone in this tone, or would you have pulled back and maybe been a little bit more in keeping with the source material's vibe?
Well, campy?
Yeah, well, campy, but I mean, just like it all for me. And again, correct me if you feel differently, but this felt a touch wannabe. It felt like Lionsgate wants a piece of that Marvel franchise money, and they are going to adapt a property that they have or that they partnered with Saban to mine that material, mine that gold mine.
I don't know.
Well, okay, so tonally, the film has its moments where I really struggle to kind of understand who it was necessarily for, because it's a reboot of the Mighty Morphin era of Power Ranger stuff. So, like, it's very clearly like, hey, like, like old fans, like
20 years ago,
like, come on in, like, like, this is for you guys, like, these are the names of the characters that you loved, it's Zordon, it's all that, like, so it's definitely pulling at nostalgia, but it is very much set in a modern kind of Marvel kind of honestly, it was very Chronicle like. kind of tone to it, and it spends the entire 2/3 of the first part of the movie just very dark and moody and all that. There's not a lot of color on screen. I think flashing forward to the final act of the film, when the Rangers jump out in their full costumes and they land on the cliffside of that rock quarry, it's suddenly holy crap, here's all the primary colors,
Yeah, that's the Mighty Morphin moment.
Oh, yeah. So, and it's tonally just very hard to really understand, which audience it's going for. And I think it wants to be for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But because it's kind of all over the place a little bit, even the stuff with Rita Repulsa, they go super dark with her, where it's she's pulling teeth and all that, it's really, really graphic kind of approach to her.
And your wife has a teeth thing, because all of the listeners know that I have a V thing, a vomit thing.
And this film is...
Karen has...
It got both.
Yeah. It's got a little bit of both.
Yep.
Yeah,
Nasty.
That was probably one of my biggest issues was the tone. For me, I liked the first 2/3 of the film as far as the tone that they were going for, and then the third act of the film, I like it just as a standalone, but as the film as a whole, tonally, it just felt like they were leaning too far into the nostalgia, which is fine, especially being a hardcore fan. I don't mind seeing some of those moments, although I don't think all of them really worked for me. For my taste, I don't need all the nostalgia, just the simple fact that we have all of our original classic characters, and just to kind of tell a more grounded story. That's really what I wanted.
But if we're going with the thesis that Brad is stating, they're trying to get a piece of the Marvel money, what Marvel does so well is it never apologizes for how goofy Asgard is. It never goes oh, well, we better find a better reason for Doctor Strange to be doing magic. Doctor Strange, he's a magician. That's how it works. But it never apologizes for how goofy and weird comics books are, but it writes a really smart and funny script. Where I feel with the Power Rangers script in general, they could have kept all of the goofy, Technicolor, bizarro, fun, nostalgic things if they took the script a little bit farther. I think that taking the story and making it more teen drama is talking down to the audience. Well, everybody can benefit from a smarter script.
So I would argue, and to continue the Matt Herms Strokecast...
You know I don't like it when you disagree with me.
No, I'm agreeing with you.
Okay, cool.
I would argue that if you look at Boom Studios' Mighty Morphin Power Rangers comic book, it takes the tone and vibe of the original show and translates it to the modern comic book storytelling method. And I think you could have done that for the film. When the Joseph Kahn fan film came out, where, Starbuck from Battlestar Galactica is the Pink Ranger or whatever, and she's ripping heads off in that fan film, that everyone was like, oh, wow, that's a crazy Michael Bay hardcore film. And really, this film basically does that Joseph Kahn tribute movie in a PG-13 way. Mm-hmm. It changes what the original was. It doesn't necessarily apologize for its source material, but it certainly ignores its source material in its representation.
Power Rangers?
Yeah.
It's a reimagining of the characters.
Exactly. But do you think they could have made would you have wanted something in keeping with the original?
A little more, or would you? Yeah.
I don't know why I'm forcing Brian to say yes to this.
Well, actually, no, I wouldn't.
No.
I like what we have.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that, again, like you said, Lisa, I just think it could have benefited from a better script. And I think that is due to the fact that they had a lot of different writers on the project. Tonally, the movie is a little bit, they don't really commit to one tone or the other. But again, you can have a grounded tone. You can have a more campy or goofy tone, but it just comes down to story.
Or you could make it super dark. I mean,
it doesn't matter.
Because I was going into the story knowing nothing. Like, I've literally never watched an episode of Power Rangers. But I go into every movie wanting to see something good. And and not that I'm saying that I didn't enjoy this movie. If you look at my letterbox, I gave it 3 stars. I liked it. But even as a person who does not watch Power Rangers, I could feel that non-committal thing of going, what are we and who are we for?
Yeah.
One of the things with nostalgia brands like this, because this is a nostalgia brand. Like this is like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Transformers, even the Marvel and DC stuff to an extent. Like these are things that were big at one time, like the 1980s or earlier, and they have just kind of continued on for each new generation. Like there's a new Turtles cartoon for every generation of kids every 10 years or so.
Yeah.
And they try to tap into what an older audience would want. And I find that the problem with a lot of nostalgia brands is that they often assume that the way to tap into the fans that watched it when they were younger is to be like, oh, well, like they've grown up. They want something a little bit, harder. They want something a little bit more adult now.
Yeah, more edgier. Yeah.
And I think the concept that we tended to strive for on the Power Rangers comics, and I can't remember if this was our editors or our writer that said this. Our writer Kyle Higgins. Essentially, the approach that the Power Rangers comics have had is that we are trying to have the Power Rangers feel, like as awesome and badass to you as an adult as they felt to you when you were a kid.
Okay, that makes sense.
So instead of trying to make it, like dark or gritty or harder, like for an adult, they're trying to make you feel like you did as a kid.
Trying to just recreate that for adults who grew up on it.
And kids will get into it.
Absolutely.
Kids will, because they'll go with their parents and they'll see how stoked their cool dads are, or they'll go with friends and they'll feel that enthusiasm and they'll get swept up in it too, I think.
Yeah, just talking the tone, just the whole idea with the character of Rita Repulsa, just how they kind of treated her character. And I thought Elizabeth Banks, she kind of went for it.
So drippy.
She kind of went for it with her character. But again, it feels like she's in a different film than the one that we're watching in the first 2/3 of the film. So every time we cut away to a lot of her scenes, she's really the one that's kind of camping it up, which I think is fine. But again, it just doesn't really mesh well.
I kind of enjoyed it. I wish that the more of the movie was Elizabeth Banksing it up.
Yeah. It just doesn't really kind of mesh well with the rest of the film. Kind of leading up into that third act.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it, but I just don't know if it necessarily. What was your thoughts on Rita?
I liked her a lot. There were parts where it's like, hey, Rita Repulsa is a serial killer now. I was like, that's a little bit intense, but her camping it up, I was all for that. I was like, all right, cool. As far as villains go, my biggest disappointment was honestly Goldar. Because he was a complete non-character in this.
Pretty much.
And also just kind of weirdly the most literal translation of him that they could have possibly done.
Yeah, that worried me when they first announced that we saw the design of him. I was like, oh, okay, so literally gold. Okay. So, I don't know. I thought it was Goldar, I thought they could have put a little bit more effort into him.
Well, especially when you see that opening sequence and you're like, oh, okay, there's aliens exist in this universe, I kind of hoped that not only were we going to have Rita Repulsa as Green Ranger and tied to the Rangers in that way, I really hoped that it would be hey, here's the evil space aliens that she fell in with, this is her crew now. It's got Goldar and
Lord Zed.
Yeah, right? She's more are gonna come after you guys, and I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Bring in Zed, bring in, Squat and Babu,
Babu and all them, yeah.
Ivan Ooze.
Absolutely, if only. So.
Maybe Darren and I'm a bigger Power Rangers fan than I like. What about that armadillo character?
What?
There's an armadillo kaiju. It was the first Power Rangers toy I ever purchased. That's right, I bought one.
But yeah,
where are we in our plot synopsis? Where
kind of
leave
just
off?
We're at Alpha 5.
No, I want back in. Yes, we were at Alpha 5.
Yeah, I just kind of eradicated that. I was just
Oh
going,
no, I'm not going to let you.
I was just going all over the place. But I guess the next thing that I really liked was like the training sequence. Like I like, a lot of people complain about the fact that we don't get the Rangers until the end of the movie, that they don't morph. But I really like the fact that they had to really earn the right to be able to morph, and then that started really with the training sequence. And I love that montage that they did when you're seeing them fight the simulated putties, and that little moment between Trini and Kimberly sitting in the diner with the fork.
Oh yeah, that was so fun.
I thought that was kind of
How much money did Krispy Kreme pay or get paid to be in this film?
Yeah.
I felt the dollars. I loved it though. I think that Krispy Kreme was the perfect reference.
That's one. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out how I feel about Krispy Kreme.
Really, I love it.
It's delicious, Brian.
Because it speaks to the suburbanization of these teens.
Yeah,
and
it's just weird to me. I mean, we see product placement in movies all the time, and I understand there's a tie-in with Krispy Kreme, and they probably sponsored and helped with the budget of the film, and I get that. But to tie in product placement with your actual plot and your narrative,
but if there is a crystal of life hidden in a suburban-ish small town, I guess it's not suburban, in a small town, within a small town, it's gonna be underneath something stupid. If it wasn't underneath Krispy Kreme, it would have been underneath Target. And if it wasn't underneath Target, it would have been underneath the golf stop. You know what I mean? It's gonna be underneath something stupid. And I love that it was Krispy Kreme.
I mean, and that's one thing I say. Like, if you're gonna go for it, just like with Rita, go for it, And I kind of give them kudos for doing that. I just don't know how I really feel about it.
Yeah. So product placement in films, if it's done well, it's very subtle.
Yeah.
You don't notice it, but your brain does.
Yes.
If it's done poorly, I remember. Man of Steel has that.
That's
fight
the one I
scene
was
in
thinking about.
Dude,
I was 7-Eleven.
I love that IHOP scene. I like
it's
the IHOP
product placement
scene way more than
that's
I like
exactly
the Krispy
what.
Kreme sequence.
But that fight scene is literally okay, we've got products
in
this movie. We're gonna put them all here.
Yeah,
and
that's the
Superman's
first
gonna
thing I
smash
thought
through
about was
each of these.
Smallville. IHOP,
Pete
7-Eleven,
Ross being an
U-Haul.
IHOP manager is the most Midwestern thing ever.
But not just IHOP.
And feels totally honest to Smallville.
But man, they got 7-Eleven. They
Don't
got
fucking drag Man of Steel into your Power Rangers.
They got
fight,
U-Haul. They got Sears.
Right?
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. It's all in that scene though.
Yeah.
It's not spread out
because it's
that
Main
movie.
Street of Smallville.
It's not spread out through that movie. It's just all packed in
That's
there.
the only time you're on Main Street of Smallville.
I actually loved Krispy Kreme. I love Krispy Kreme in general, but I loved how they integrated it because honestly, they just went whole hog on it.
They did.
They just embraced it.
They own it. Wayne's World Reebok style.
The joke, the we got to go to Krispy Kreme. Those jokes, they rocked my audience. They found that to be the funniest stuff in the film. And honestly, Rita at one point steps into a Krispy Kreme before they destroy it.
Yeah,
and eats a donut.
And to be fair, the hot donut sign was on, which she should stop and eat a donut.
And the scene when she has him tied up and she's talking to Billy, and he's like, where's the crystal? And he was like, Krispy Kreme. He was like, I need the source of all life. And he's like, oh, Krispy Kreme. So,
well, the thing is, to me, it's just what would have been in Krispy Kreme's place? Coordinates. Coordinates are not fun. They're not climactic. They're not funny. True. Krispy Kreme is fun. It's funny. Everybody loves it. I say yay to Krispy Kreme.
Yeah.
So,
and IHOP.
And IHOP.
Actually, I don't like Krispy Kreme. I don't eat sweets, though.
Yeah, it's because he's fit.
This conversation is un-American.
We don't really have Krispy Kremes. We have Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah.
And we have a Duck Donuts, but those are cake donuts. That'll be another podcast for baking dork. What's the point of a cake donut? Cupcakes exist. Cake exists. Fry a donut. That's what I say.
So but before we get to the Krispy Kreme, which, but yeah, the training montage, and then again, and this goes to another negative of mine, was some of the comedy didn't hit. So, when we get to a lot of training
like
sequences.
Like the bull penis thing? Or did that hit for you?
Not really. But the nuns, when Zach takes the mastodon out. Mm-hmm. So basically, Alpha 5 is showing them the Zords for the first time, and Zach, of course, is like, okay, I'm gonna go for a test drive in this, and he goes out, and I thought that was a fun little sequence. It would have worked. I didn't need a shot of the nuns.
No, wrong. No. I think that sequence is kind of lame because suddenly he's just no problem driving this frog thing.
Well, he wasn't riding. He wasn't driving it.
Well, he had it on like autopilot.
Autopilot, yeah.
Whatever. That's even lamer. The nun thing felt more in tone with the Breakfast Club 80s-ness of the movie. I was cool with it. Sister Act's great movie.
I think it was also in tone of nothing that they've ever done up to this point has had consequences. Like the getting your ankle bracelet turned off, 0 consequence. Crashing your mom's car and probably ruining a train, 0 consequence. Not even an investigation. But now, like, you know, he's essentially driving a kaiju around, and of course nobody's gonna notice and nothing's gonna fucking happen. To me, I think it was completely in tone with the rest of the movie.
Yeah, and then we learn more about Zordon's plan as far as him trying to escape the wall. When he basically tells the Rangers to leave and go home, and Jason stays behind, and you hear Zordon and Alpha talking because Zordon is trying. Zordon needs the Rangers to morph so that he can open up the morphing grid so that he can step through it and come back to life. And he feels that he's the only one that can really take out Rita. So Jason overhears this, and then he realizes that Zordon really doesn't have any faith in his team. And then that causes the conflict between Jason and Zordon, which I kind of like. I like bringing that element of Zordon into it because we never really got a lot of his backstory in the show. Mm-hmm. And the fact that he was a Ranger, and the fact that because of this, what's going on now with Rita trying to get to the Zeo crystals, like he needs to find a way to. He doesn't just accept the fact that he's a giant floating head. It's like, I need to get out of here so that I could be the one to stop Rita. So I liked that element of the film.
And also the irony of really Zordon is bringing the team together to break up the team.
True, yeah. You're right.
Like I liked the idea behind why they could not morph. I think that could have been explored even further.
Yeah, which goes to my favorite scene of the film, because we talk about, and again, why I love Power Rangers is the idea of teamwork and coming together for one purpose, and the campfire scene is pretty much hands down, I think, the best scene in the film, with them really kind of opening up themselves and learning about each other, and really not just trying to be a team, but become friends. And to me, that's really to the essence of what Power Rangers is to me. And we see a little bit of this prior in the film with Zach. I love the moments with Zach and his mother, and how his mother is his hero. That really kind of spoke to me. And Trini, I thought this was really Trini's moment.
I think that they could have leaned into the LGBT aspect a little bit harder.
Yeah.
I think that if you're going to be in the spirit of Power Rangers in that time in the 90s when it really was about let's create some diversity in children's television by bringing in people of different races, and now the next step of that would be bringing in an LGBT character and being like super explicit about it. You know, I thought that they kind of wimped out on that just a little bit. She never straight up said like, I am same-sex attracted, I am a lesbian, and my parents have a problem with it. I think that they could have leaned into that a little further. Though I did think that her moment was beautiful, but I just think that it could have gone further.
Yeah. I mean, but I think they had to be. I won't say had to be careful.
Well,
but
that's what they were being. They were definitely being careful. And I'm saying you don't have to be careful with that anymore. If you want to create a change, don't be careful with that anymore. Don't treat it like it's like cancer. You know, like being gay is not a tragedy. You know, it's something that is normal. It needs to be made normal.
Yeah. What did you think of the campfire sequence?
Well, first off, I wish more films had campfire sequences because
Star Trek 5 does.
Well, so does the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie.
Oh,
yeah, which is a great moment in that film. Like
all great films have the campfire sequence. I agree.
There you go.
So, like,
there you go.
I would love more like that. And honestly, like that was where we really got to see kind of Zach and Trini shine really for the first time in that movie. Like they really, you know, like developed those characters in that moment. Also, like, I mean, like as Lisa said, like I do, like a couple days before the movie came out, like they had all the articles that were like, hey, like we're you know, like they've got a you know, like a lesbian character, and that's Trini, and we've got you know, like a character on the spectrum, you know, like and that's Billy, and they were very much like confirming that. And in the film, like Billy's character, you know, like solidly confirms that he's like, I'm on the spectrum, Jason, you know, like
even though I think that they could have done a little bit more research into what the autism spectrum is. I hate to be overly critical about that, but I mean, like
that
it was
bothered me the most about the film.
It's just like
he's Rain Man light.
Yeah, not even. To me, he was just like, I think that like at a mainstream school, he would just be quirky. I don't think that he would be spectrum.
And you know, like so, but Trini, you know, like they kind of only dip a toe into it. You know, like so I got to see the movie at a press screening, and I missed the first 20 minutes. You know, like we grossly underestimated the amount of time it would take in rush hour traffic to get to the movie. So we were one of those weird people that show up like 20 minutes into the film and are like, "Hey, everybody,
the worst."
You know, just let me just squeeze over here. You know, like
scum of the earth, Herms.
Yep. So if we were at an Alamo Draft House, I imagine they would not have let us in.
Thank God.
But so I remember getting to the campfire sequence, and I was like, oh, I guess maybe like they kind of build up Trini's sexuality and her relationship with her family a bit more in that 20 minutes that we missed, and they don't. There's nothing about Trini in that time frame. What's more, random thing about Trini that bothered me. So when we finally ask her name, and all the kids are like, oh, I know her, that's Dee Dee, you know, like and stuff like that. When they finally ask her name, Becky G is like, well, I'm Trini, is how she said her name. And then everyone else in the movie kept calling her Trini. And I was like, guys, like, I mean, you know, I know that was just like her mispronouncing her own name in that take, but maybe have gone in and put someone like fix that take, because now it just sounds like everyone else is an asshole saying her name wrong, you know.
I was confused about that. Why did they call her Dee Dee for a second? Like, what was that about?
Well,
like,
the joke was just, you know,
like they'd been mishearing her name.
Yeah, they don't know her. Like, you know, like they were like,
I guess I got that, but to me that was confusing. And then Rita calls her Dee Dee later, and I'm just like, what is this? Who is Dee Dee, and where are they hiding her?
But yeah, I love that. I love that moment.
But what do you think about Kim being like, don't ask me?
That didn't work for me.
Yeah.
I get it, like the whole idea of, you know, the perception of being a bad person and doing something, you know, terrible, and having that define you and define who you think you are. But as far as like what it was that she did, I don't know. It just, for me, it just didn't work. Now, I mean, the idea of like the fact that with the way she was explaining the story, that she had to sit there while the girl's father had to look at the picture, that's hard. I could imagine a kid having to go through that, and a parent seeing that, and that was the cause of you. But I don't know. It's just the whole idea of, she made it seem like it was bigger than what it. I don't know.
To me, I liked that aspect, because to me, I think that like when I was in high school, sending nude pics around was like you really had to put some effort into sending a nude pic, because you had to get those pictures developed. You had to get copies made, you know, like, and I feel like this is something that teens are dealing with today.
Well,
and the fact that Jason was like, well, there are literally thousands of nude pics floating around. I thought that this was an extremely modern problem, and I liked the fact that they integrated this issue that is very now.
Yeah,
into the story.
I could definitely see why. I guess maybe for me, I just didn't really identify with it. But
I think that it's something that teens will identify with.
Yeah, I think teens definitely, especially in this age of social media and cell phones. Like in high school, I never had a cell phone. I mean, if I saw somebody with a pager, I was like, "Oh,
you had a rotary,"
you know. So yeah, like I get now why that would definitely be an issue for kids nowadays. So yeah, I think that was pretty cool. They put that in.
Like
there.
I think about when all of these kids who have had cell phones since middle school, they're going to become CEOs, they're going to become presidents, and they're all going to have nude pics. They're all going to have them, and they're just going to be part of life. Like that's the dumb thing that you do as a kid, So I found that to be an extremely modern problem. I think that maybe it could have been handled like a little bit differently.
I think that's what.
I think that she was like a little bit over dramatic about it. To me, I think
like
that's
teenager.
That's a way less of a big deal than my mom is dying, or my parents are rejecting me because of my gender identity or sexuality.
I would like to play devil's advocate.
Darren speaks.
In our culture of bullying and how that is a big deal, and you rarely see or hear about the bully taking responsibility and being sympathetic towards the victim and looking at their actions and seeing how big of a deal their harmless little tweet or just showing a picture, they're joking. Yeah, it's not a big deal to the bully, but then it has huge ramifications to the victim who ends up taking their lives because of some of this stuff. And I think that her making that big deal out of it is what people say when they're anti-bullying. It's not just words you're saying from one end of the computer to the next. It's not just a harmless joke or prank you're playing. It is a big deal to the victim because you don't know how they may take that. Based on what's going on in their lives, their self-esteem, and what have you. So I kind of think that it goes in line with that idea.
Yeah.
I think it's different. I mean, I'm not saying that it's not bullying, but I think that there's slightly a different power dynamic than the typical bullying, because this is cheerleader on cheerleader violence. Not that I'm saying that it's not. I mean, that's a cheerleader problem.
Yeah,
one cheerleader is like, "You've got my man," and the other cheerleader is like, "Well, like your girl's a slut. Look, she's sending you nasty pic." Like, for one thing, why does she have a nude pic of this girl? I didn't even think about that. But to me, like, I don't know. Like, clearly that picture was circulating beforehand. I can't mentally math it out.
Yeah.
But I don't think that this. I don't know. I take back everything I just said. Everybody just skip. If I just put this in later in post, tell a little note, just a 15-second skip. Don't cut it out, but a 15-second skip after everything I just said. I'm sorry.
So getting back to the concept of why that campfire sequence is in the film, this idea that they're having difficulty morphing.
Yeah.
They step onto into the morphing grid. Is that what it's called?
No, the morphing grid, like the way I interpreted the morphing grid is the morphing grid can be anywhere, but the thing was like a morphing grid reader.
Okay, so they
can morph outside of outside of that little room.
So they step into the morphing grid reader, and they are struggling with that ability. Is that something from the original show? Because it's such a huge plot point here, and I don't really remember that.
No. I mean, from the original show, they could just morph.
Yeah.
I mean, once you have the morphers, you could just morph into the Rangers. But that's what I like about the movie is the fact they give them reason. They have to be able to work as a team before they can morph. And I think that was a great addition to add to the story. I
like that it was not about learning each other's secrets. Like, they thought that was like their theory about how they could morph, and so they do this sharing of secrets. But really, it was more about going, I love you. I give my life for you.
My life, and
so it's not about knowing everything.
And that goes to the whole point with Billy. When we get to now, a lot. I've gone back and forth as far as how I feel about the whole death of Billy, because again, we knew that he wasn't really dead, but I like the end result of it when the morphing grid opens up and you see the sacrifice that Zordon makes instead of coming through to bring himself back, he sacrifices that action to make Jason's team whole. So I like that aspect of it. But as far as them killing Billy, or quote unquote killing Billy,
lightly killed Billy.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it
They should have
works.
called 911. No consequences for killing Billy.
So Zordon says, "I need you all to morph so that the grid can open, so that he can get out." That's what his plan was, right?
Yeah.
So Billy dying. Did they morph after that?
Yeah.
Well, then they morphed when he came back, but
No, I mean when he died, because when he died is when the grid opened and Zordon could have stepped out.
Because
But
they
he made
all
that
loved
choice.
each other, and they all confessed that I would die for you, and that created the kinetic energy to open up the grid, and that's why he could come through.
There you go.
And they were so distracted by all of the commotion about the grid being open that they didn't morph, but they could a second later.
Oh, okay.
I got this. One watch, 2 watches.
because they connect. I mean, it felt like the Agent Coulson moment in Avengers a little bit to me. That it was the death of Agent Coulson that was brought the Avengers together to be able to work as a team.
At least Avengers waited till another TV show to resurrect Coulson.
Yeah, true, very true.
But I think that Billy really did represent the enthusiasm for being in a group. Like the other
did.
kids, you really got the sense that if they really wanted to, they could get friends elsewhere. Where Billy, he was like all in from the beginning.
Yeah.
Like with every little excited clap he gave, he was professing his love for doing this, being a ranger.
Yeah.
And it was a little heavy-handed, but I think in tone with the movie.
Yeah,
The movie's
yeah,
heavy-handed, so kill Billy.
Yeah, I mean, dialogue and stuff is on the nose. But I think, again, to the actors' credit, I thought the actors did a really good job of selling it for me. I thought they were great. But, yeah, when Billy comes back to life, they have that camaraderie. They have that moment. And to me, when they do morph, I feel like that moment is earned in the film. I think we're building up to that, and I feel like that moment is earned. And so when Jason says it's morphin' time, it doesn't...
Here's the thing, though. How come Rita can still morph? Like, once a morpher, always a morpher?
She's still got her coin.
She's still got her coin, but you need camaraderie to morph, and she has no one. She's alone.
She has that Goldar.
Oh, so her camaraderie with Goldar? She's like, I would die for you, Goldar.
You also don't know Lord Zed and all those people up on the moon.
Oh, so do they have coins? They must have coins now.
So that moment feels earned to me. And I think it works in the film when you hear Jason say it's morphin' time. It doesn't feel corny or cheesy. Like I said, it feels like a real earned moment.
How rock hard were you when that happened?
He gave a measurement to your listeners. It was about 2.5 inches.
Okay.
But did you have goosebumps? You had goosebumps at the very least.
A little bit. It was exciting.
I wonder how they directed everybody's morph face, because looking at those morph faces, it's just like, okay, that looks fun.
Yeah, it was cool. I like that moment.
Oh yeah, no, it was fantastic. I wish they had done their call out, just been Tyrannosaurus.
Oh yeah.
But I got why they didn't. The stuff with Billy's resurrection, honestly, hearing you describe it actually makes a lot more sense to me now in terms of the journey that had to happen there.
Yeah.
Because honestly, before I was just really hung up on the mechanics of it.
Same here.
Yeah, because we've established that Zordon died, millions of years ago, but it's okay. Alpha uploaded his essence into the ship, which is why he's talking through a wall, and which is why he can come back. And I was like, but why can Billy come back? Because he's not in the wall. So
because he's up in the morphin grid. I'm just gonna come up with excuses for everything.
And this is another one. Well, exactly like that. This is another one of those areas where I was trying to logic my own way through it and be well, Billy was the only one that has achieved morphing since so far in the movie. So I guess maybe that's how he's connected to it now. So his essence is in there somewhere.
He's morphing around.
Yeah. So that Zordon, when the portal opens, can be it's your turn, kid. You know, so.
Yeah. But yeah, I like the end result of it, of what it means thematically for the film. But yeah, but then they morph and they have the hero walk, which I thought was cool.
I really wish they had, like, in all the trailers, they have that great guitar riff of the original theme song.
Yeah.
I really wish that had been there. As opposed
during the
to
walk?
Yeah, as opposed to the Stranger Things soundtrack. You know, like, I really, really wish that had been where it was.
Yeah.
But you know, like I dug the walk. You know? Like no, that was a great moment.
So and then we get into the third act, which I like. I love that underwater sequence when the putties come in the water and then they go up. Like I love that small little fight in the water, and then when they jump from the water and then they do the hero landing. You know, Deadpool's hero landing. It's hard on your knees, but yeah. And then they fight the putties and they get their Zords. So I love all that stuff. I don't know, but yeah, just the third act just feels like a completely.
Well, as soon as they get their Zords, they immediately toss in the original theme song.
That's what I wanted to go to. What did you think of that?
Mixed feelings.
Me too,
on
same.
one hand, I was like, oh, hey, it's the original theme song, because I think we can all establish that, like, the Fall Out Boy Ghostbusters song in the Ghostbusters reboot, that everyone was just like, oh, gosh, really? Like, like, so I appreciated that they went with the original, but again, like, it's such a tonal shift. Like a violent tonal shift.
See, I was before the movie came out, I knew they were going to do the theme. I thought they were going to do like maybe an orchestral version of the like part of the score.
Yeah.
But they actually took the theme from the 1993 show, like unremixed, no dubstep version, nothing, and they put that. That was like,
they sure did.
I was like, okay.
They sure did. And like everyone in my audience like snapped to attention. Like it got applause and laughs.
Same here.
Like everyone was immediately like, yeah.
Pavlovian joy.
Yeah. So that I don't know how I feel about that. I'm gonna probably see the movie again a few more times maybe. I have to really figure out how I feel. But yeah, that was weird. That was interesting.
Well, I mean, like Transformer movies. Like we've never gotten the Transformers theme song, right? It's always just Linkin Park, something or other.
You've got the touch.
Oh, if only. Like, so.
It could be coming.
You got the power.
The Unicron's in the next movie,
say,
so
we got Hot Rod in the next movie.
I
too.
know,
yeah,
so
no, like,
we could get that
a live action version of the Transformer animated movie. I'm there, done. It'll be the first one I like.
Raw white wheat nitty bomb.
I don't know, but yeah. But I don't know. Then the last fight, I told Darren this too. Like in Angel Grove, like Angel Grove got destroyed.
Right?
Yeah, I got the Thor.
I got like
treatment.
a Man of Steel. Like man, this is. I know it's a small town, but whoo.
They broke all of the things.
Man, it's gonna take a while to rebuild.
Tokyo got to get stumped.
Well, like, I mean, like, the original Power Rangers, like, they'd cut to the Japanese Sentai footage, and, like, it was just all the cardboard buildings and whatnot, and it had this allure of, like, oh, Angel Grove's a big city of some sort, you know? Like, and Angel Grove in this, like, they really couldn't decide if it was going to be kind of like a derelict mining town or a derelict fishing town, so they did both. And it's a small town, like, everybody knows each other, and can't imagine that there's much of it left after the fight.
Yeah, that was
Definitely no Krispy Kreme.
No, Krispy Kreme is gone.
They'll rebuild.
They will. That'll be the first thing to get. Well, they have to cover up the Zeo crystal. So
it is the source of all life.
So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the whole film. I mean, we get to the end and we see them all back.
What about Jason's moment with his dad?
Oh yeah, that's right. I like that. I like that moment. And then we kind of hear like how they sound when they're in their suits. It kind of, that Batman kind of thing where it kind of disguises their voice, because Zordon says the 3 rules of being a Power Ranger, and the last one was like you can never, no one can never know your identity.
Yeah. I was gonna say it's got kind of like a weird like reverb or something in there where there's like an echo that disguises them a little bit, which I really liked.
Yeah. I like the fact with Jason when he goes and saves his dad. He fights those couple putties, does a nice little swing kick move. But yeah, I thought that was cool, because this is just a way to kind of for Jason to just kind of reconnect. I mean, of course, his father doesn't know who it is.
So So you mentioned Herms. You mentioned that you have suit issues. Like you had issues with the designs of the suit. So,
absolutely. Yeah.
So what's your beef?
It's Michael Bay. Like,
is
honestly,
it too boxy?
It's
too
not
busy.
Too busy.
Too busy.
So there's I forget what there's. For a while there on Twitter, I saw someone describing kind of what you see in terms of movies and video games, especially design, and it's basically kind of a clusterfuck of design, essentially, where they're like, look, we're going to put in all the little details, we're going to put in all the little texture and whatnot, and it's just going to be really messy and really hard to kind of follow. There's not like a lot of clean lines or anything, and you can do it because it's all computer generated, so you just you build that render and then you're good to go, and it's expensive, but it's how we do it nowadays, and design wise, I'm just like I miss clean, I miss really clean lines. I miss I honestly, as an artist, I miss something that's like, oh, I can draw that, I can commit that to memory and I can just immediately, draw that out, you don't have that in modern video games and modern cinema. Everything, they've nowadays, the idea of realism is that it's just really, really detailed. So, and I dislike that a ton.
What do you think, Brian, about the design?
I mean, I was so geeked out just getting a Power Rangers movie that I just kind of accepted everything that I saw. Now, have you seen those Dave Raposa prints?
Yes.
Yeah, the Green Ranger and the Red Ranger. I wanted something more akin to that because that would have kept in tone with the original series, but it feels updated cinematically. I think that definitely looks like a cinematic version.
Oh yeah. Well, they've done big budget versions of those original costumes in the 1995 movie. And they're not great, but I mean, they look exactly like just a big budget version of the old Sentai costumes and whatnot. So, I don't know if I necessarily wanted them to go back to the well with that, but I maybe wanted it a little bit cleaner, a little bit more, honestly, aside from the helmets, which I thought looked pretty cool, I could not tell you, offhand, I could not be like, oh, look, let me describe the rest of the costume.
Yeah, it's a little...
I can tell you they all had separate butt cheek plates.
Did they?
They all had, and so did Goldar. It's like, it's just do not be confused. Everything has two butt cheeks. And Goldar even had a point where it was just he had his two separate butt cheeks, and then there's just a point of light, just a hole in the center of his butt where you could see the sky on the other side.
Are you serious?
That's a weird. I have to tell you, every movie I watch, I'm butt shot. I'm studying. I don't know what it is about me.
In his asshole?
Yeah, you can see. Well, I don't know if it's an asshole because you can. It's like an ass window where you can just see clear through. It's like.
Sure, it wasn't a thigh gap.
No, I know a thigh gap. I know a thigh gap. I'm a modern woman.
Hashtag ass window.
Yeah. It was very strange.
But yeah, I thought the suits. You're right. I mean, the one thing that bothered me was kind of the shoulder pad part of it. It just looked a little weird, but I didn't necessarily have too much of an issue with it. I mean, I understand that they were going to go in that direction, but I mean, it didn't bother me too much. I don't
understand why it, and now maybe this is just completely not in the spirit of Power Rangers, and maybe you're just going to poke me right in the eye after saying this, but I don't understand why it's not something that's more organic, considering that it is something that's inside them. They're morphing into it. It's not a suit that they put on. So why does it look? If it's from inside them, why does it look so much like a suit?
Couldn't answer that.
Because it's cool, Lisa.
Just wondering.
Well, it's very Iron Man.
Yeah.
It right down to the glowing chest and whatnot.
But you know what? Iron Man, one butt plate.
Yeah.
You're not getting between those.
Yeah.
There's a solid butt plate.
Well, they'll change the design for the sequel, hopefully, because they gotta sell toys.
Right.
So
Pink and Yellow Ranger also have the classic combat wedges.
Okay.
Is that true?
Oh yeah.
Oh my god. Well, they're short though. They're two short ladies.
What about the final battle between Goldar and the Megazord?
That is something I did want to mention. I actually liked when they formed the Megazord, the fact that they had to learn how to use how to walk, because you see that one shot, you think it's gonna be like this heroic moment, and then they trip over and fall over. And
yeah, they did not get the test drive around the parking lot.
Yeah, it's like okay, I think I'm an arm, or I think I'm the leg. So and this,
You're a leg too.
Yeah, and so they have to try to figure out how to work this giant Megazord together. So I like that, where it's just not like, oh, well, how the hell do they know how to? I mean, Zordon does say that when you morph, you become one with your Zord, and you see that when they enter the cockpit, and you see the thing, and they slide back.
And they go full Avatar with the attachment.
Yeah, so they try to make it believable that okay, individually they are one with the Zord, so that's how they can pilot everything. But as a Megazord, I like the fact that they had to stumble before they can, and you see them learning how to use it in the fight with Goldar. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, like I was trying to. My wife Karen and I were talking about like how the Megazord comes to be, because like it seems like the Megazord is not something that was in the original Power Rangers bag of tricks. Essentially, like Rita seems very stunned when the Megazord comes out. And we're like, is that like them just all being connected, or is that them like falling on the Zeo crystal and getting a power up from that?
Yeah.
Like and like again, like one of the things that I was like, well, let me try and figure out my own logic for this, because like they come out of it. And they're very much like the Megazord, which I don't care a ton for that design either, but the Megazord comes out, and it's almost like a perfect silhouette of Goldar as well. So I was like, is this like a Zeo crystal power-up? And they were like, what could fight Goldar? Oh, our own version of Goldar. Because it's like, we got the wings, we got the same kind of body size and everything, So I was like, is that why that's happening?
Because unlike the original show, the Megazord is... not you don't see the pterodactyl part of it. You don't see the frog leg. You don't see the triceratops leg. The Megazord, when it forms, is just a big damn robot. And that was weird to me.
Yeah, you don't really get to see the details from each actual Zord in there. I don't know, but I liked it. I thought it was cool. As far as, I agree. The design, especially from the toy, I don't think really kind of meshed. I would have liked to have seen more of from the original show, at least an updated version. But I know the way movies are made today, we're never going to really get that. I mean, we look at Transformers, we're never going to get.
Stop saying that, Brian. Look at the MCU. They embrace their origins.
Yeah, but that's the MCU. They're a separate studio from.
That's correct, and we should demand that from other studios.
Absolutely, but as we saw, they didn't do it.
Correct.
They didn't
what about Goldar? The fact that he's made up of a homeless man's teeth and stuff.
I'm still. I mean, I accept the fact that and I kind of like the whole idea of like the gold kind of melding around. And he's kind of like like the T-1000 or whatever. But ultimately, I would like to see Goldar like from the show, like an ape monkey monster or whatever, and in gold plated armor. So that's what I would have liked to have seen.
Yeah.
But
well, again, like Goldar is such a non-character in this. Like in the original show, like he's a very menacing villain. Like he's Rita's right-hand man essentially.
Yeah.
And like they're working with the Sentai footage, so they only can really do him as this menacing character. And as the show goes on, and they start doing more and more footage, and then they introduce Lord Zed, who is nightmare fuel for children. His skinless body and brain exposed. Like they start turning Goldar into more of a comedy character, and he just was nothing. Like honestly, he was just like giant gold monster.
He reminded me of the first Thor movie when that
Destroyer.
Yeah.
First off, the Destroyer rocks.
Yeah.
And is great in the first Thor movie.
Not an elaborate character is all I'm saying.
He's a big robot.
And fucks up a small town by just his largeness.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess before I end it, I just want to kind of go through some of the Easter eggs. I don't know if you picked up on a few of them, but I got a list here. We already talked about the Alien Rangers from Aquitar, and from the beginning of the movie, the Zeo Crystals, which was the second iteration of the show, the Power Rangers Zeo. Something else I kind of picked up on. The Angel Grove, the football team, their school is the Angel Grove Tigers. The tiger was from the White Ranger. He had he had the Tiger Zord. And shout out, rest in peace to Tui Trang. Trini, she played the original Trini in the show. She passed away. And Trini in this movie, Becky G, wears a shirt and it says 1973, which was the year that Tui Trang was born.
Aw, that's nice.
Yeah, and of course we hear the classic line from Rita, "Make my monster grow," and she sticks her staff to make Goldar grow. I thought that was cheesy but kind of cool. Of course, the Goldar Megazord fight that also is a callback to the pilot episode when they actually fought Goldar in the first episode of the season of the show. At the end, the Yellow Ranger. She's putting her room back together, and she's got her little brothers, and they're like, "Oh, I want to be the blue one, and I'm the red one." And she's like, "Well, what about the yellow one?" And she's like, "Yeah, like he's cool." She's like, "What makes you think it's a he?" That's a callback to the original Sentai, the Zayu Rangers, because in the Japanese footage, the Yellow Ranger was actually a male, but in the show it was actually Trini. So that's why it's like, well, how do you know it's a guy? It was a guy in
the wedges.
Yeah. The Yellow Ranger was actually a guy in the original Sentai show. So I thought that was cool. We got the Amy Jo Johnson, Jason David Frank cameo. I thought that was cool.
Oh, who are they? Who are they?
Original Green Ranger, original Pink Ranger.
Yeah, but who were they in the?
They were the ones
Power
taking the
Rangers?
picture at the end.
They were the ones after the big fight. The Megazord's standing there in victory. They've got
and they're looking, like everybody's looking at.
And I'm like, it's the chick from Felicity.
Yeah, she was. Yeah. So yeah.
My audience lit up.
Yes,
in that moment.
and ours too.
You know, like just like the breath, everything went. Sorry, just hit the microphone there. Like just the everything went out of the room. Like everyone was just like.
I know. People love Jason David Frank. I can agree. The shot of Rita in space in the moon,
heading towards the moon.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
And then the last thing I have is just the end credit sequence.
Yes.
Yeah, Tommy Oliver, the whole Bueller thing. Like they mentioned Tommy Oliver, so he's coming. Hopefully, in the sequel.
I'm curious. Do you think do you think they'll make a twist on that and cast Tommy as a girl? Because Green Ranger in this was Rita.
Yeah.
And, I think originally, like you saw in the trailers, originally they were building up a Jason Kimberly romance and everything.
Yeah, and then they cut that out.
Yeah.
They cut that out of the film.
So I'm kind of curious. I'm like, Tommy could be a girl's name. So I'm wondering if they're like, hey, here's a twist. Or possibly if that had been a twist at one time they were thinking about, and then they were like, people seem to respond really poorly to that kiss between Jason and Kimberly. Yeah. Let's maybe dial that back,
I'm glad they took the kiss out, because everybody knows that, Kimberly and Tommy are like the quintessential Power Rangers like relationship. And I think they're going to... Everybody knows this. So I thought it would be interesting if they did that. It would definitely get into YA in the second movie by making a love triangle between Jason, Kimberly, and Tommy. Yeah. But I think if they go the route of having Kimberly and Tommy in a relationship, and then he's the evil Green Ranger, that can bring a new dynamic between the team in that movie.
Yeah. So in the original show, when the Green Ranger comes around and he eventually becomes the White Ranger, in watching the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger movie from 1995, Tommy is certainly the main character of that film.
Yeah.
Yes. He basically took over that series, right?
He becomes the leader.
Yeah. So, original Power Rangers, made super on the cheap. It used Japanese footage from Super Sentai Zayu Ranger. And the Green Ranger is a villain in that.
He's basically Reptile from Mortal Kombat.
Kind of. He shows up about halfway through the season, and he's a real badass. Like, he lays everyone down. He turns out he's the brother of the Red Ranger. And he dies in the Japanese show. Like he has this candle that is slowly going down, and he's got like 20 hours to live, basically. Yeah. And in the show, they wrote that as they were like, well, we can't kill him, so like he loses his powers when the candle goes down, and so they wrote him out of the show.
Yeah.
And they actually, Saban had great success with Power Rangers, so they were actually building up a show called VR Troopers. That was another show where they took Japanese footage and then they spliced in American footage around the fight scenes, essentially. And Jason David Frank, the actor for that, was going to go and star in that show. And fans were so displeased, so just beside themselves unhappy that they got rid of the Green Ranger, who was this hugely popular character that they literally were like, oh, no, you're not in that show anymore. You're coming back to this one. We're going to give you your powers back. We're going to, just create footage for you, basically.
Yeah.
And it was, as an adult watching that, it's very fun to be like, I can tell when it's the American footage because the costume is not great.
You got that flimsy
right?
shield.
Like, it is not great looking. And so they brought him back, and then they eventually were like, oh man, like this is, again, like it's expensive to be doing all the costuming and everything. So they finally took the White Ranger from another season of Sentai and introduced him in to cut costs down, essentially.
Yeah.
So what's interesting, though, is that this film spends so much of its time building Jason as a leader that in the second film with Tommy coming on board, do you want or expect the Green Ranger to take over as the main character?
It wouldn't happen in the sequel. Now, quickly, Saban says that he has like a 6-film arc. I don't know if it's going to go to 6. I don't know if it's going to go to 6 films. I would love to see it, but I mean, I think the first 2 or 3 seasons of Mighty Morphin have such a great arc to it that if you were to translate that into a cinematic universe or a cinematic series, I think that could work. Because I think the second film you could just focus on the evil Green Ranger, and maybe the third film he's still the Green Ranger, but now he's good. Yeah. And then you get to a 4th film where he turns into the White Ranger. Mm-hmm. And then you don't necessarily he doesn't necessarily, because he doesn't become the leader of the team until he's the White Ranger. But by that time, we don't know what will happen, or even if it will even get to that point. But I think you can slowly build and have that arc from evil Green Ranger to Green Ranger to White Ranger over the course of maybe 4 or 5 films, and stay there. And then you also have they already introduced the Zeo crystals. You have Zeo Rangers. There's so many different directions that they could go. I mean, you can really flesh this out really well over 5 or 6 films, I think.
Adapt Power Rangers Turbo.
Oh no,
Get all the way there.
I don't know about that one.
Absolutely, all the way there. That's the end point.
Okay, yeah. But yeah, that's all the notes I have.
All right.
I want to get to the bottom of how Darren felt because he barely saw. He said Jack this whole cast. So how do you feel about the film, Darren? Where are your notes?
They're all up in my head. I enjoy watching Brian watch Power Rangers. I enjoy Brian enjoying and loving Power Rangers. Yeah.
I did notice there was 0 rating on Letterboxd.
Yeah, I was just checking that right now. I find myself scrolling.
I noticed that too.
I've been busy, man. I haven't had time to. I've watched so many movies, and I've been doing other stuff. I haven't had time to get to Letterboxd. It's just been crazy.
It takes a second. It's on your phone.
You've rated the Belko Experiment, which you watched after Power Rangers.
You've
rated Life after watching the Power Rangers, but you have not rated the Power Rangers.
It was way more exploding heads in the Belko Experiment. There's way more Rebecca Ferguson in Life, and so. Yeah, that's my argument. I said it on the podcast before. I'm gonna let time pass before I talk about my feelings about the Power Rangers because I want. Like, this is Brian. Brian's been waiting. How long has it been since they had first announced it?
Maybe 2 or 3 years.
It's been 2 or 3 years. Brian's been waiting 2 or 3 years for this film to come out, and having just recently been burned twice by the Ninja Turtles films, and that same level of excitement and anticipation and build up, and then he gets those films and they are not what he expected, and then not to mention the public's criticisms and backlash on those films. Granted, even though if he doesn't think they're great films, it's still, as a fan of that franchise, it still doesn't do him any good to see negative comments about something that he holds dear.
So you hated it?
I'm not saying I hated it. I'm just saying, and then Power Rangers comes out, and he has a better experience with that film than he did with the Turtles.
Oh, yeah.
And so, I know Brian. We were having a conversation earlier today about him staying off the internet because he reads other people's opinions. People he doesn't even know. People he hasn't even known for 10, 15 years or whatever. And he takes their opinion to heart. So if I give my opinion on something, I know Brian considers my opinion. And strangers' opinion bother Brian and affect his enjoyment of things that he holds dear. So I know, like, if I say something, he's going to take my criticisms to mind, and I don't want that to affect how he feels right now. This is his moment. Like, I'm not looking to take that away from him. Not
but
saying
then why have this podcast if we're not going to share our opinions, Darren?
Because Brad might not feel that way. You might not feel that way.
I certainly don't.
Matt don't know Brian from Adam, so everyone else can talk.
Well,
and someone has to hook the shit up.
So
I plugged in my own microphone mostly. Thank you.
Did. Lisa's working on phasing me out. I see what's happening. I know what's happening.
So, Brian, knowing that Darren obviously did
Hated
not
it.
feel the same way.
Well, you know what? We know what's interesting. While watching it, sitting next to him, I just felt like he doesn't have to say anything. I know Darren. I think I even know what he doesn't like about.
You know
the
what
movie.
though? If you guys had coins, your love for each other, you could morph.
Oh yeah, we've done it already.
Yeah. But no, I mean it's cool. I mean I'm a big boy. I mean I get it. I understand that first Power Rangers is not for everybody. And then secondly, like everybody is not going to love this movie. But I know for me, I have my issues with the film, but I'm not gonna lie, I really, really enjoyed my experience. I really, really like this movie. And I think there's enough in this movie that if they go back and look at what they did right and what they did wrong, hopefully in the sequel, unfortunately they didn't do that in the sequel to Turtles, they can correct a lot of stuff. I feel like they can because I think the people behind it, Saban, Lionsgate, and Dean Israelite, they're passionate about this project. They have a love for this material. So I think they're going to nurture it and take care of it. So I think we can get something better in the sequel. Hopefully, that's my
So
hope.
when we're recording our top 10 at the end of the year, is Power Rangers going to be on? Do you think?
I don't know. You have to tune in to find out in December.
You really liked it though. That makes
Well,
me happy.
I can guarantee. I don't want to say guarantee, but if it's not top 10, it'll be top 25.
Okay.
I mean, and just on the simple fact of my love for the series. I mean, I can't take anything away from that. And even outside of that, I really, really the first 2/3 of this movie is absolutely fantastic to me. It's absolutely fantastic.
And Herms.
Yeah. Well, like honestly, going into it, movies like this, I feel like I've been beaten down pretty hard, like the Teenage Mutant Ninja, the TMNT movies and all that. Like, or is it just Ninja Turtles? Is what they call them?
No, they're
it's the full. It's the full. Yeah.
Okay. So like the TMNT movies, the Transformers movies, like I feel like I've been beat down.
Yeah.
By those, and thus my expectations are so low for any of those kind of films. And going into Power Rangers, I was like, all right, like. Let's see what the damage is, essentially.
Yeah.
And I was so pleasantly surprised with it, like again, like there's a lot of pieces that I was like, I don't care for this, like the designs and whatnot. Yeah. But like I really loved the kids, like and I really loved the potential of it, like so I'm really hopeful that we're gonna get a number 2.
Yeah.
Because I want to see what they do with that, like because I definitely think that they would be the sorts that would be like, all right, like. Like clearly people didn't like this. We're gonna change that up a little bit. I definitely think that there is room that it could become way better. And not that it was bad this time around. I really came away from it enjoying it. Especially on that first watch with everyone in the theater being just hardcore Power Ranger fans. It was very much like I am amongst my people right now, because every single person in that theater was immediately like, oh, I recognize this, so I'm hopeful, I really hope that in the future, that we do get a number 2. I do hope we get the Evil Green Ranger saga, again, I'm so beaten down usually by some of these movies that having one that I came away from being like that was really good and fun, that's such a change from others.
Well, for me as like a non-Power Rangers person, and seeing like going like how come the ankle bracelet never came up again, and pointing out these flaws, or not flaws, but just holes. You know what I mean? I still came away really enjoying these characters, and I would love to see what these kids are up to.
Yeah.
I thought that the entire cast just had like charisma.
Yeah, yeah. And that's my hope, is just that, say the sequel, they get one writer instead of having 6 writers. That's what made me nervous. And then have one singular vision. Dean Israelite, I thought, did a great job. I never saw Project Almanac. That was his first film. But if he stays on board, I think they could really, if they get a singular focus, I think a second film could really be, especially now they got the origin out the way, I think a second film could really do something special. Yeah.
All right, so that's it. That's our review cast.
It's over. It's over. 3 years of my life. So
what do you do now?
I don't know.
Wait for the next one?
Wait for Fate of the Furious in 3 weeks.
Yeah!
Is that 3 weeks?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Oh, my next obsession, Bad Boys for Life. Get ready, listeners.
Didn't that just get pushed back, or Carnahan left that?
Yeah.
Oh, but it didn't get moved, right?
No, but don't worry. I'll be following it, so,
okay.
you know.
All right,
Yeah.
well, I'm glad you enjoyed Power Rangers.
Yeah,
Brian.
yeah.
It really makes me happy, because I was worried for you.
It made $40 million at the box office this weekend, so it will be getting a sequel.
I hope so. Yeah. I get, you know, nervous about that. I would love to see these characters again. So yeah. Thank you.
I think the fan community is big enough, and then plus it has it opened overseas yet?
That's the thing. The rollout is open in like 18 other markets. It's opening out slowly in like Europe or in April, but it doesn't hit Japan until July.
It'll be fine.
Yeah,
especially if once it hits over there.
Yeah.
But yeah. So again, thank you, and thank you, Matt, for stopping by.
Absolutely.
Anything you want to plug? The comic or?
Well, yeah, definitely check out the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers comic book from Boom Studios. We are going into year 2.
Yes.
Tommy and Billy are trapped in a parallel dark dimension. The adventures continue.
All right. Anywhere they can find you on social media? You want people to follow you?
Sure. I'm at Matt Herms, MattHerms, on Twitter, and you can follow me there for art and updates and all that stuff that I'm currently working on. Been deadlining this whole week on the latest issue of Power Rangers, actually.
Nice.
So.
Nice.
All right. Well, thank you for stopping by. We've been supposed to have you on the podcast like a while ago, actually. So glad we could finally get you here.
Absolutely.
Hope to have you back.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And Wife Dork.
Yes.
Tell the people where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at Sidewalk Siren.
Yep.
Send me some love.
And Mouth Dork.
You can find me on all social medias at Mouth Dork.
Ranger Dork.
You can find me on all social medias at the Turtle Dork, at Turtle Dork 1, Brian William Young, all that good stuff. Yeah.
You have like 9 different social media names.
I know. That's why I'm trying to condense my sign off and just find me everywhere.
You gotta Google some shit.
Yeah,
if you want to follow Brian.
Just look me up. Just look me up. You know, I'm out there somewhere.
You're gonna have to work for it. He's playing hard to get.
There you go. Yeah, I'm playing hard to get.
And I'm Darren Smith, the Disco
What about
Dork.
these things on the thing? Should we talk about those things?
Oh yeah, Film Club. Oh wait, what?
Should we not plug those things? I thought we bought this whiteboard specifically to remind us to plug these things.
Yeah.
Darren does it after he introduces us.
Giving our behind the scenes.
Did I miss our plugs? Was I not listening?
No, he does it after he goes like, Lisa, do your thing, Brad, do your thing, Brian, do your thing. Then he does his thing, and then he plugs the final things.
Okay, sorry.
All right, I'm going to plug before I plug myself. Film Club coming up for In My Film Club. Old Boy. So our next recording next weekend, we will be discussing that. So you have, a week left to watch the film, and then hit us up on Twitter at ItModcast with your thoughts, comments, and questions about that film.
Hashtag.
And we will read those. Hashtag ItModFilmClub. Hashtag Old Boy. And we'll discuss those questions and comments on air. And then we got a fistful of... In honor of the upcoming release of Ghost in the Shell, starring Scarlett Johansson, we have a fistful of whitewashing. and also coming up in May at the Alamo Draft House in Winchester, and I'm excited about this, is It Mod Month. And that's when 1 weekend a month, for the month of May, each dork will get a chance to program and introduce a film at the Alamo in Winchester. So I'm looking forward to that. We also got the Itmod Chat Cast with Ted Gahagan. And Gagan, Ted Gagan. We got that coming up shortly. That's not out already?
It's out.
It's out.
Yeah,
but you can still listen to it. We leave it on the internet for a while.
Yes, and then be on the lookout for the Itmodcast Takeover the World.
Oh, I added that one for fun.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll be doing that shortly, possibly at the end of the summer, because they got a lot of stuff going on. We got Comic-Con and a bunch of other stuff. And then also Fuck the Police.
Yeah, I put that on there.
All right, and then...
Hashtag PTP.
PTP.
I got to get back on that horse.
That's right. And I'm Darren Smith, the Disco Dork. And that's going to do it for me. You can find me on all social medias at the Disco Dork. Thank you all for listening. And until next time, Lisa, you're off of whiteboard duty.